let's talk about a question that I recently received where somebody said, hey, I've got a quick question. I am trying to take my nutrition more seriously, and I'm not sure if I should focus mostly on my macros or I should primarily focus on the total amount of calories that I'm getting in. So let's talk about that. One thing that commonly gets misunderstood is that when we are addressing a question like this, we as trainers and coaches need to take a moment to clarify the person's understanding of what calories are and what macros are, or macronutrients. So first, let's start there. When we're talking about overall calories, we're talking about the total number of macronutrients all added up that make up that calorie number. So for example, when we're talking about your macros, you're talking about the amount of carbohydrates or carbs, the amount of fats, and the amount of proteins that you are consuming. Carbohydrates and proteins are both going to be worth 4 calories per gram that you consume. Fats are going to be worth 9 calories per gram that you consume. So when someone asks me that particular question in the specific scenario that they had, they're getting back into the gym, they've gotten more consistent with their training routine, and now they're realizing, okay, now I'm ready to start taking a look at my nutrition. This is one I definitely relate to because that's the exact path that I followed. First started getting into the gym. I'm not even going to say getting back into. First started going to the gym, and it took me a few years to then truly commit to, all right, I need to start focusing on my nutrition. Now at that time, if it fits your macros, the IIFYM movement and macro counting was pretty much starting to reach the peak of its popularity. So that's how I first learned nutrition, for lack of a better way to put it. So I did first start with, okay, about how many grams of carbs do I need, about how many grams of fat, about how many grams of protein. I was fortunate, though, that at that time, as I was learning that, I was also being educated on the fact that those macros equate to overall calories. So when we're asking that question, which one should I primarily focus on? In my opinion, the answer is both, because they both matter and they're both directly related. One is not different than the other one. Think of it mostly like this. You're like, hey, how much money do I need in order to buy this particular item? Let's say I need $1,000 to buy this particular item. And then let's say that you have 3 different jobs, and those different jobs pay you different amounts of money. So the overall money that you need in order to buy the particular item that you want, those are going to be your calories. The money that you are going to make in each of those jobs that allows you to reach that $1,000 that you want, those 3 jobs, those are going to represent your macros, your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. So if you were to ask me, hey, would it be better for me to focus on the $1,000 that I need in order to buy this thing? Or would it be better for me to focus on how much money I'm making at each of my 3 jobs? I think that it starts to make a bit more sense, because you have to focus on making enough money, or you have to focus on how much you're making at each of those 3 jobs in order to know if you're hitting the overall amount of money that you need in order to buy the item. And again, macros and calories work exactly the same way. Focusing on those 3 macros, how many carbs you're intaking, how much fat you're intaking, and how much protein you're intaking, those things all add up to how many overall calories you are taking in. So keep that in mind as you are going further in your nutrition and your fitness journey, to pay attention that just because you're looking at your macros and say, for instance, you're like, hey, I'm hitting 100 grams of protein and that means that I'm good to go. Well, you're not just consuming protein, you're also consuming other macronutrients, like again, carbohydrates and fats, and those things are adding up to an overall calorie number. So you do want to have an understanding of overall how many calories you are consuming. All right, hopefully that helps. We're going to get in here to the gym and do a lift. Have a good one.